Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today I am sharing with you guys my 10 favorite books and movies. I was tagged by Heather the Crochet Witch. She was tagged by Fiber Spider, and I thought this was kind of fun, especially because there's a lot of these that won't surprise my normal subscribers, and some of these that I think are probably going to surprise some of you guys. But I think these kinds of tags, in particular with the books and the movies, are so much fun because it gives us inspiration for things we might want to try out, especially during this time of year where a lot of us, it's too hot to be outside. These are always perfect, like right around winter, the beginning of winter, and right around the beginning of summer, like peak summer, when you don't want to be outside except for like 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. It's like the midnight hours are the times where you could be outside, and the rest of the day you're like, no, shade, air conditioning, no, thank you to the outside. I don't want to deal with this. So I love these kinds of tags this time of the year. So anyway, let's dive on in. So first off, as you could tell by my thumbnail, I did go ahead and bring some of the books in here, or books in theme. Before we get to the list, actually, you're going to notice there's a lot of either series or genre things that will come up across these. So just heads up. One of them is kind of a real cop-out. We'll get there. So first, books. And the first one I want to talk about is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So this was really hard because I could have put this on favorite movies or favorite books, but I did decide to put this on the books list. So I enjoy du Maurier's writing style. It's descriptive without being overly wordy. It's very atmospheric, even in a we think of atmospheric in terms of mystery and horror a lot, but also trying to create, the environment for even a positive mode. Du Maurier, just brilliant writing. It was absolutely beautiful. I also enjoy the interesting characters that du Maurier created, but Rebecca in particular, it's wonderful to read it in a cold, hard book in your hands. It is also wonderful to listen to a decent narrator, not even a great one, a decent narrator read it to you. It is the perfect of everything. It really is. And the characters are so, I mean, the innocent ingenue is innocent still, but smarter than most ingenues would be written. And that also relayed perfectly into the movie with Olivier. It just, oof. Anyway, it's a mystery. It's not a horror. It's an atmospheric mystery. It's all the things that you want in that like gothic romance type. What's really going on underneath. So if you're not a huge reader and don't really enjoy reading period stuff, I watch the movie because it's just brilliant. I have not seen the new movie. I'm afraid to watch the new movie because especially with something like Rebecca, you can do it right or it's going to go really, really wrong. And if it's really, really wrong, then I'm going to be very angry and very upset for probably about 3 days. It's going to bother me. And then if anybody mentions it, I'm going to be even more angry. So I have not watched the new one, but the Olivier, oh, it's good. So up next, I have the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So I have read no, past this. I'm up to where he released the short stories. So it's it was like 5-6 books past this one, at least. I've read all those. I have like 2 of the paperbacks left, and then like 4 hardbacks on my shelf still. So the first half of the series, part of it went back to my dad and part of it went to my oldest stepson when he was getting caught up on the books. So these have been kind of like a family favorite. The paperbacks got passed around very heavily. I think I'm the furthest along. Maybe my dad got a little bit further than I did, but not only that, I have these on audiobook as well. And so Spike from Buffy does that audiobook, and it's brilliant. It's perfect. The inflection and the syntax, and especially the dialogue, Dresden dialogue parts are just chef's kiss. So if you do enjoy an audiobook, I highly recommend checking these out on audio. So these are modern fantasy, and it's I don't like fantasy as a general genre. I get a lot of flack for it. I love fantasy movies, but reading fantasy tends to annoy me. I'm going to say this and I'm going to sound very judgy, but I don't mean to. But a lot of people who write fantasy want to sound like Tolkien, and nobody has that voice. Really, it's very hard to have that perfect combination of that historical tone, and a lot of it's because Tolkien was world building and creating from scratch something new. So the descriptions and everything are very rich and kind of have to be, because these were things that were new at the time of writing them. In a modern era where these are normal in a genre, writing like that becomes very sluggish and boorish and obnoxious and over the top for me. So I don't enjoy a lot of fantasy novels. But a lot of modern fantasy, things that are written in the modern era, they can be really fun. The writers tend to write, once again, with a modern voicing, and it's got a very contemporary flow. It moves very effortlessly through narration. Dialogue isn't clunky. And I mean, like, I'm somebody who can read Shakespeare and I can read it like modern language and understand it just fine. You're doing it wrong, unfortunately, with a lot of authors. And not all. This isn't like a blanket statement across all, but I prefer modern fantasy just because I think the storytelling tends to go a little bit easier. But anyway, Wizard Dresden, working as a PI, life kind of spirals out of control about 6 books into the series, beyond what it was already out of control as. But it's fun. There's Butcher pulls from a lot of different folklores, mythos. There's a beautiful balance between spirituality and natural magics in this. It's not, it's one of the few modern fantasy books that have magic as part of the realm that aren't Christian hating, which is also kind of nice. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but it does get kind of obnoxious as well, where it's like Christians are painted as being evil and corrupt and immoral consistently in fantasy, and a lot of modern fantasy writers tend to follow along in that trope as well. So Butcher somehow manages to balance voicing and storytelling and engagement, pulling from multiple different places, multiple different parts of the world, our world and other worlds, and creates a modern story that is exciting. And especially in the audiobook form, like, I can totally lose 4 or 5 days straight just listening to the audiobooks. Brilliant narration, beautiful timing. And once again, we're dealing with a book with modern voicing. Conversations are very natural, so it's easy to follow along with. But the books are engrossing. There were a number of them where I didn't put them down for 2 or 3 days at a time while I was reading the physical book as well. So this is definitely a series I've come back to multiple times in different media and thoroughly enjoyed. Off on a whole nother plane of existence. I have the same problem with this as well as far as a genre, but I do love me some Jane Austen. So I chose Persuasion. I have a full set of the Jane Austen books that all go together. This one has Persuasion and Lady Susan in it, which is the only Austen I have not read to date. But I love Persuasion. It's romantic and beautiful and sentimental, and once again, just there's funny haha, there's funny satirical, but it's lovely and heartfelt and very genuine. To me, this is the most genuine of all the Austen books. This is the most sentimental, feel good at the end of it, of all the books. It gives you all the warms, and the hopeless romantic inside of you just feels full. Your cup is full after reading Persuasion. So if you're looking for that, it's also great. It does great in audiobook format. I've listened to quite a few different narrators doing Persuasion. Beautiful. If you're looking for a movie version, the one with Ciarán Hinds in it is fantastic. Although the book contains more. So if you're looking for more in that story, if you want it to feel just a little bit fuller, but if you watch it and then read it, you're going to get more out of reading it, but you're not going to be disappointed with the movie. It's not going to be one of those, you read it and watch the movie and go, you're still good. Like, you understand why certain things get cut. It is harder to put those into a movie, but it is soft and gentle and sweet, and that's true for a lot of the characters. It's not just true for the heroine. So if you're looking for something squishy and feel good, I definitely recommend Persuasion, especially if you enjoy historical fiction or classic lit fiction. But it's not the only Austen I love. Emma would probably be number 2. Next up, I do not have a copy of it. So I mentioned this last summer, and a couple of us have had an off YouTube chatter about this, but I'm putting this on here because I do genuinely love the series. It just isn't what I'm looking for now. And that is the Patricia Cornwell K. Scarpetta series. So this is not, this is no offense to the series or anything else. It's another one of those series that is very dated for me. And it's because technology has moved so far beyond where the book series starts off. So trying to restart it last year was very difficult because we're in the early age of computing for crime solving, digital communication, things like that. Electronic mail, email was electronic mail, not email. Like, it is the whole start of like CODIS and stuff like that are detailed in the background of these books. So where we are in criminology now versus where these books started is a huge jump. So if you are up to date on crime solving or anything like that, watching true crime podcasts and stuff, or Dateline, things like that, you're gonna feel that technology slump. And it's not so far back that it feels historical. It's too in date. It's too close to now to feel natural. It feels very unnatural. Beautiful writing. Once again, Patricia Cornwell does an excellent job at writing. So Kay Scarpetta is the main character. She's a ME, and we are following along with her. Each book series has a different crime that she's following and working and helping to solve. She works with, different agencies, and particularly the FBI, but she's based out of Virginia. So it's location wise, a lot of times we're hitting areas that I'm very familiar with. There are a couple times where she's, like in Greenville, South Carolina and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I know where that is. That's, an hour that way. I actually grew up right next to Greenville, but so there are lots of things that feel very topical and present. It is how, many of us found out about like the body farm at the University of Tennessee and stuff, which I think is absolutely fascinating. There's a book called The Body Farm, it's the first book. So anyway, it's a great series and I really, really, really loved it. I read it and stayed up to date probably through like 12 books, religiously stayed up to date, and then slowly would pick up like one or two at a time. Cornwell in general, I really love her fiction. A lot of her investigative journalism, which is what she used to do, was investigative journalism. And she also worked like the crime beat and stuff at either Raleigh or Charlotte, I think. Anyway, it's good, but it reads more like journalism versus her fiction. I think her fiction flows very well. It's very easy to read. It's very easy to identify with a lot of the different characters, and the characters feel full. They don't feel like caricatures. A lot of times with crime novelists, a lot of characters, especially if it's not like your main two or three people, tend to feel very cartoonish. And her characters feel very full and real and complex and multidimensional. There are no saints and there are no sinners. There's in her main body of cast, they're complex people. Good people do bad things and bad people do good things. It's real. It's gritty and real, but not in that like gumshoey type way. There's no cheese factor to it other than we're too close to those early books having been written, and the divide of technology makes it feel archaic in a too close to reality. It's almost uncanny valley kind of thing there. I have got to stop talking so much because we're already 20 minutes in and we're only halfway through the books. Next, I've got the Chronicles of Narnia. Classic. Many of us grew up with this. I do like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, although I probably prefer, really like Prince Caspian quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I thought I could. I just, off the top of my head, I thought I could pick a favorite, but I don't think I can. I like it as an entire story. I prefer reading it in the chronological order, not the written order, and getting the story beginning to end. It's wonderful. There's a number of different audiobook versions of this that you can get on Audible or narrators on YouTube, things like that. It reads very well in, physical form as well as in an audiobook form. But if you've never actually read the entire Chronicles of Narnia, it's fun. I highly recommend the entire thing. Barring the Christian storyline that's kind of overlaying the entire thing, as far as like an introduction to child fantasy world, it's beautiful. It's interesting and it's engaging. And the story, once again, there's something very natural and organic about the way this fantasy world is unfolding and how we're experiencing stories within this fantasy realm. So, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it multiple times over the years. Freckle Juice, I don't know how many people remember reading that as a kid. There are so many things about this book as an adult I love. I wish I'd had kids so I could, make that part of, the next generation moving forward. But so Freckle Juice kids book, it's, an early chapter book. It's what, Judy Blume? Yeah, Judy Blume. I made notes because some of these, it had been a little while since I had read them. But no, the teacher in Freckle Juice at the end, the magic eraser was just, I don't know. It just, as an adult looking back at what the messaging is there, just makes me happy. And it makes me happy that that was part of my childhood. And it's wholesome and it's good and it's cute. And there's, kids do the darndest things. Kids do the weirdest things, and kids get fixated on the weirdest things. And as an adult looking at that book, it's one of those things that just makes me happy to know that it is out in the world and that something that innocent and pure is there. But anyway, it's a kid trying to get rid of their freckles, and they make concoctions trying to get rid of them and making themselves sick and everything else. And if you've read it, you read it, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It would take you an afternoon as an adult to just go through the book. It's an easy read, but I don't know. Sometimes you just need to remember you are who you are, and that's, being confident and loving yourself is important too. And it's just like I said, at the end, the messaging is just, I love it. It's sweet. Let's move away from the mush here, and we will go on to theme. I love cozy murder mysteries. I don't just love cozy mysteries. I like cozy murder mysteries. So there's got to be a baddie somewhere. I don't know why, but for some reason, those tend to be the better ones. Generally, not always bodies here with the Juliet Blackwell series, but this is the Lily Ivory series, which I've read most of. The Witchcraft Mysteries. The Haunted Home Renovation Mysteries is also pretty good. I've only read the first of those, but I do have more in my paperback shelf. This is the series I've been reading right now, though. This is the Aurora Tea Garden series. Once again, this is written in the 90s. The copyright on this one is 1990. So there's mention of computers in the library and stuff, but I forget because once again, everything is so modern reading. I forget, and I will sit there as I'm reading them going, why aren't you just calling for help? Use your phone. And then I realize not everybody has a cell phone because we're just, and it drives me crazy. But anyway, Aurora Tea Garden's the heroine throughout the series, and somehow bodies just turn up around her. And she got married a couple books ago, but I've got 3 more books until I am completed with the series. So I'm either going to go back and finish the Lily Ivory series or probably the Haunted House series. But I do also have a bunch of crochet and knitting themed cozy murder mystery books as well. So I don't know. They're cheesy, delightful things. I love them. Bunnicula is the next one. That's another kid's book that I read when I was very young. I probably read it about 900 times. But you have kids with a rabbit, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with the rabbit because this rabbit's not like other rabbits. Once again, I only read the original Bunnicula book as a kid. There weren't, to my knowledge at the time, all these other books, Bunnicula Takes on Transylvania or whatever. The cartoon series and stuff didn't exist. It harkens back to, little Carrie that enjoyed mysteries and enjoyed the spooky and the weird. I read all the Goosebump books up through like book 50 when I was a child, and then kind of phased out of those really quickly and went on to Fear Street books and stuff. But Bunnicula was kind of like the first early telltale sign something was a little not quite right with little Carrie. It's once again, it's just a harmless, fun, silly, guilty pleasure. As an adult, more guilty pleasure. As a kid, it's a good book. It's a fun book. It's a harmless book. Enjoy the reading. Enjoy the reading. I highly recommend a lot of these books for just any kid. I know Fiber Spider did like the Ramona Quimby books, and this is in that same vein. It's just, There are so many things I could have put on here. Bunnicula I chose specifically because it is very indicative of things that I would grow up enjoying, like the strange, the macabre, the spooky, the weird, the creepy, and stuff like that. But all of those, the Beverly Cleary, the Judy Blume books, they're it's a couple that wrote Bunnicula. Now I can't remember their name all of a sudden. I can't see it. So now I can't remember it. Anyway, all of these books were very, that was just what we read when we were kids. And they're kids telling stories through kid eyes, and they're just harmless fun. And you can always pick your author that really spoke more to you and your family, or to you and how you want your kid to feel. But I don't know. I love these so much. I do. And like my grandkids are starting to get to the age to where, like, if they decide they want to take up like summer reading and stuff, I can start passing these off to them. My godson and his sister are getting a little bit older, so these are good books to kind of start. So I'm getting in that phase where, I've got younger people. They're not littles anymore, but they're younger, and these are starting to be things that are age appropriate and reader level appropriate for them. So I'm looking forward to sharing a lot of these. But yeah, I don't know. I was an avid reader as a child. I read a lot of things and I reread a lot of things. And there were so many things that I could have put on here, like How to Eat Fried Worms was also another really good one that was just, it kind of speaks to the elder millennial and the Gen X kid that we were. That's how we ran around. That was what it was like when we were kids versus, like just a very few short years later, spending your summer playing video games locked up, all day. That wasn't my experience. My experience was way more, you got shoved out of the house, came home for lunch, you got shoved out again, and didn't come home until dinner time. So it's, I don't know. There's a huge nostalgia factor, I guess, for them. And there's just a genuine innocence about the books and the stories while still being truthful. Like there's truth in these stories, and they're very honest, and they feel very from a kid's POV versus an adult preaching at a kid. So as kid books for kids, they're great readers because you feel like you are actually part of the story and not being told a story trying to shape you or trying to make you a certain kind of person. Next up. So like we said with Dresden, Carrie struggles with fantasy, but I do have another fantasy series on here I would recommend, which is the David Eddings Sparhawks series. So there's two trios. One is the Elenium, and one it starts with a T is the second one. The first one's my favorite, but you follow the adventurer Sparhawk. So why I keep calling it the Sparhawk series. The voicing is modern language. So it's modern writing, modern language. You're not getting bogged down in somebody trying to sound like they're writing in a fantasy realm. This is a fantasy realm. This is not modern fantasy in the modern world. This is a fantasy realm. So you've got princesses and magicians and wizards and sorcerers and weird mythical creatures in this world. If you get through it, I used to have a stuffed whale that a friend gave me. After I finished the series, I was like, oh my God, I love it. Yeah, so I don't have the stuffed whale anymore, but good series, great writing. It's very well tempoed, very well paced. I have not listened to this in an audiobook format, so I don't know how it would give as an audiobook. I think it would be good though. I have reread the paperbacks like 4 times over the years though. So, is somebody who doesn't really particularly care for fantasy, reading fantasy, it probably says something that I've read this more than once at this point in physical book form. Also, the Belgariad is also very good. I only read the first 6 books in the Belgariad. I did look it up, and there's more books after Belgrith and Polgara came out, but I read the first 6 books. After that, well, no, I read 6 and then Belgrith and Polgara. But anyway, 8 books total. I read. All the rest of them I haven't read yet. And those are really the only things from Eddings where I was like, I devoured them, loved them, reread them, and enjoyed them. But definitely both of these are fantasy realms, fantasy worlds. Belgariad is a little bit more like medieval fantasy type world, whereas Sparhawk is more in that like could be over here in that like medieval, but is leaning a little bit more into like fae and anything possible, but definitely not this era. not something that has existed for the last 300 years and that kind of thing. Anyway, very fun. Enjoyed those. I think I gave my dad the Belgariad, and I don't know if he ever read them, what he thought of them. But Sparhawk, I know my oldest stepson and my second stepson both enjoyed them. The second one and I have passed the same set of books back and forth a couple of times now, where he's like, hey, can I borrow those? Because I really want to reread them. And I'll be like, hey, can I get those back? Because now I want to reread them. So we've passed, in particularly the first 3, back and forth a couple of times now. And then I've had a couple of friends over the years that also really love that series. And they're like me, where they're not really a huge fantasy book person. They enjoy fantasy, but not really fantasy reading, fantasy books. So anyway, there's that. The last book I want to mention is kind of more because of genre, but I brought in Wolf Hall. I love Renaissance fiction, especially when it's Renaissance fiction based heavily in history. So I really, really, really loved Wolf Hall. The treatment on Masterpiece was brilliant. I've listened to this in audiobook as well as read the physical book and seen the miniseries on Masterpiece. Any form you take in Wolf Hall, it's good. If you like historical fiction, heavily based in well-researched fact, Wolf Hall is an excellent, excellent choice. It's all from the perspective of Cromwell, the rise of Anne Boleyn, the fall of Anne Boleyn. Unfortunately, he met his end before the end of the saga that would be Henry VIII there. But wonderful book. It's a little bit of a heavier read. It's much easier on audiobook than physically reading, unless you're very used to reading this type of a book. Another author that does a really good job with well-researched historical fiction is Alison Weir. The only book I've had issue with her or taken issue with her is the Anne of Cleves book so far. I'm about to start the Catherine Howard book. But I've read other, not Henry VIII's wives books of hers, and they generally are very well researched. And if not 100% factual for the person's life, she's pulled enough from their circle to kind of do things, but she does fall prey to, some tropes as well as some misnomers from history. And at times she does kind of push not truths, things that we know are not true. I don't want to say lies, but they've become those historical facts that everybody knows. But she's very good at writing in the genre and making you feel like you're there in the best kind of way. And once again, sentence structure, language, and everything's modern, but it's also historically appropriate. It's not like reading Shakespeare in the sentences. The dialogue, though, is period. which would be expected, for something like that. It's not distracting at all, though. You get very, very used to reading that. And also audiobook format, wonderful. You once again lose yourself in the storytelling, so it doesn't seem awkward unless it's supposed to be. Like with Anna Cleves being German and speaking very little English, that is distracting, but it would have been distracting. Like in context, it is still present there. But those are the books I wanted to talk about. I was really hoping I could keep it under 20 minutes, but clearly I failed at that. So maybe I can go faster at the movies. So my 10 movies that I brought in here are brought on my list. I really worked hard to come up with a nice combination of things. So we're kind of multi-genre here. I tried not to just stick to one thing of things that I love. And I wanted to share some things that just will always be mine, my heart. So first off, Lord of the Rings, just beautiful from beginning to end. Peter Jackson did an amazing job. There's just no way around it. Musical direction's perfect. Casting is absolutely brilliant. The storytelling and the formatting, the cinematography, costuming, the limited but explosive use of CGI in that movie is perfect. There's no moment where, even going back all these years later, I feel pulled out of the story because of the usage of CGI in the story. When it's used with this beautiful, delicate, perfect touch. But it's always in these huge impact moments. So it seems really weird to say it's delicate. I don't know how to explain it, but these are huge impact moments in the storytelling, and they're huge moments on screen visually, but they're not disruptive. They seamlessly kind of move in the story. It's great. I love it. So yeah, such a good movie. I cannot read Tolkien. As much as I love Tolkien's stories, I cannot read Tolkien. I struggle with Tolkien. It is like I said, he needed to be extra verbose and overly descriptive and in the weeds and in the details. But his storytelling is so good. The stories he told were so good. So I'm glad somebody was able to bring to screen what many of us could not get to the end of in reading. I do have it in audiobook format. I do have the trilogy in audio format. Eventually, I am going to give it a shot and see if I can get through it audiobook. I have tried a couple of times. I've gotten through 3/4 ships of Fellowship in book form. And that's it. So I think that's the furthest I made it. I also tried to pick up the Silmarillion when I was younger and maybe got 5 chapters in. Next movie is All About Eve. I am just a Bette Davis fangirl anyway, but this is a brilliant cast, top to bottom. It's snipey and witty and intrigue and young upstart coming in and slowly trying to work her way in, making besties, and then kind of just takes over and starts knocking people out of her way. It's so good, and Bette Davis is just brilliant in this movie. She had a way of carrying herself with anyway, but she is so good in All About Eve. She just really, it's a must watch. My second must watch Bette Davis though would have to be Dark Victory. It is heartbreaking, and she's so vulnerable and so soft. It's completely different than how you normally think of Bette Davis. So I love All About Eve. That will always be my if I'm feeling a little kind of movie. But Dark Victory, probably Bette Davis's best movie, best performance. Completely different characters, though. Completely different feel for those movies, and the ends of those movies leave you feeling completely different. Like you feel a little, I want a martini and a little sass at the end of All About Eve. And at the end of Dark Victory, you just kind of want to be hugged and give a hug. 3, the original series cast Star Trek movies. The only one I don't like is the one with Spock's brother. That's the only one where I'm like, can we just skip this one? Can we just skip this one? I enjoy them all with the exception of that one movie. I wish we could have gotten more out of that franchise sometimes. I don't think there was anything left to give, though, at the time we retired the original series cast. It was time to retire them and move on with the next generation. But their movies were so good. And we were actually on the way home this morning talking about the 80s treatment of sci-fi and horror tends to be very childish, but truthfully, a lot of the franchises did treat both genres very seriously in the 80s. So you had like Indiana Jones, which also fantastic franchise. You had Star Wars, which isn't my cup of tea. It's fine. It's just not my thing. You had the Star Trek movies. You had Back to the Future. So you did have people trying to do serious things within these genres, but I do have to say those Star Trek movies just are so fun. I could easily lose 2 weekends or a week just watching those straight through. And of course, my favorite is Wrath of Khan. It just has to be. There's just no way around it. It's kind of the perfect movie. I'm not gonna lie. It's just kind of the perfect movie. Up next, we're coming back to Daphne du Maurier with The Birds. So I've already told you I love Rebecca. Rebecca, the movie, is fantastic. The Birds, it's a classic, creepy, atmospheric, confusing. You're left with more questions than answers at the end of it. It's melodramatic without feeling like you want to throttle people by the end of the movie. You do kind of want to like Tippi Hedren at one point, like when she opens the door in the bedroom. But other than that, like, it's just so good. It's so well done. It's so well put together. It's classic. It's iconic. If you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend watching it. It is a short story by Daphne du Maurier as well. So if you want to read it, you can also read it. I am all for you picking up books and reading them or popping in some headphones and listening to an audiobook. But I think there's also people who have done this on read The Birds online as well on YouTube. But I don't know where to go with describing it. I know that it was also on Heather's list as well, but it's kind of, it's another one of those, it's just kind of a perfect movie. And it's horror-esque, but it's definitely more of that atmospheric horror. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to keep. Up next, it's not really a movie, it's a mini series, but The Stand. And this is the Rob Lowe, Molly Ringwald, Gary Sinise, The Stand. Love it. Cannot get through the book. I think I would do better with it on audiobook where I'm not so bogged down by it's a big boy. I have a copy of it in hardback, and it's a little intimidating. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little intimidating. It's also probably one of the reasons why I never read it. But it's a post-apocalyptic people story. A lot of times, I run into problems with Stephen King a lot. I find a lot of his books his horror books tend to kind of fall apart. that you get off to these great starts, and it's almost like sometimes he doesn't know where he wants the story to go, and then just kind of rushes the ending, rushes the falling action, and you're kind of, I find it more frustrating when you have a great start, great characters, and then the ending. That annoys me more than just being a bad book or a bad movie. Because I see all the potential, and it just feels wasted. One thing Stephen King has always done a wonderful job at, though, in his long form writing, is characters and character development. And The Stand is his ultimate character story. It is so fantastic, and the characters are so rich and so full, and so they're once again, it's fully multi-dimensional characters that you're dealing with for the good and the bad. And of course, the wrap up and everything is just, it's fun. It is another very quick Stephen King ending, but it makes sense in context for this one. The mini series was very well cast. You're right in that zone. In a couple more years, it will feel more retro. Right now, like Gen X is feeling a little cringe, and elder millennials are feeling a little cringe because it's kind of like our childhood zone. So once again, it's that you have to skip a full generation in order for something to no longer feel cringe after 20 years. So you have that like 20-year gap, and we've got to get through that to where it doesn't feel so. But luckily it was, more early 90s feels than 80s feels. It's treated very seriously. The entire thing is treated very seriously. It's well, as far as I can tell, having not read the book, it is very well transcribed into a screenplay. So its storytelling stays very true to King's people studies. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I started the new one and didn't get very far. So I was immediately drawn in by Gary Sinise's character in the original miniseries. So if you are interested in it, if it sounds like something you would enjoy, but you weren't immediately sucked into the new one, I would definitely try the Gary Sinise one, because it does grab you from the very beginning, and the soundtrack is awesome. It is a kick butt soundtrack. Up next, another mini-series. Surprise to no one who knows me. Pride and Prejudice. The Colin Firth, Jennifer Ely, Pride and Prejudice. It is perfection from beginning to end. It is very true to the book. Minor things are taken out for flow, continuity, and everything else. It's just perfect. I know everybody loves the Colin Firth lake scene. My favorite scene is actually the awkward scene where he proposes. That is the most honest we ever see Mr. Darcy. And it's so perfect in its awkwardness and directness. And it's received exactly as how it should have been received, because it does feel like an insult. And she is very right that it sounds very insulting. And it was insulting to some degree, but it was honest. And I love it. And I love how it plays out in the miniseries version of it. It is delightfully awkward, but it is so good. If you like Jane Austen or period romance, this is kind of more that like straight romance with ridiculous people on the sidelines that would keep lovers apart. They make themselves ridiculous and make those around them look ridiculous by association. But it is so good. It is such a good adaptation. And the movies I've never liked. They have to take too much out in order to make the story fit in less than a 2-hour format. The miniseries is how you have to go with certain things. It's how I feel about The Stand. It just had to be a miniseries because it's too much to be just one movie. And you couldn't split it up like you did with It and make 2 movies out of it and stuff. It had to be a mini series. It's just too long and there's too much you really need in order to get the comedy and the romance in the same movie. And I think you need both to really offset the story. You have to have all of that in order to it just you need it. You really need it. And it's so perfectly done. A lot of the dialogue is taken directly out of the book. So if you've read Pride and Prejudice and you've always looked for that thing, I know a lot of people my age, that's how we fell in love with Jane Austen, was watching this Pride and Prejudice. It's so good. It really is that good. But like I said, the Karen Hine persuasion's absolutely phenomenal. The Michael Gambon more recent adaptation of Emma done by Masterpiece is also very good. Although the Kate Beckinsale Emma will always be my OG. That one has my heart just a little bit. But yeah, Pride and Prejudice. I mean, many of us are very already familiar with this. But I do love it. I do. I could do an entire day of Pride and Prejudice, follow it up with some Persuasion. And then I do have the Anna Green Gables stuff. So I could just sit down and watch Anna Green Gables for the next couple days. I could totally have a frilly pink girly. Up next is another classic movie. One I don't hear talked a lot about. It is also a book by Edna Ferber, and that would be Giant. So Giant, the book, also excellent if you're looking for movie. It's got James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor. James Dean is the worst casting in it, unfortunately. Great in certain areas. Great in all the back in time shots. But it's good. Once again, we're dealing with more of a people story. Now the book is much more rich. And the book adds a ton that you don't get in the movie. So sometimes the movie might feel like it's a little bit choppy and you're not quite understanding what and why is going on, especially as we move to the modern era where the book is actually being written from. We're in Texas. We're dealing with oil drilling and that kind of thing. This is a early 1900s piece. Ugh. I mean, my soul just kind of cringe a little bit to say that. First half of the century is where the bulk of this, that just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not going to like that at all. Anyway, you have family story, you have social political story, you have obsession and jealousy very heavily overlaid in a lot of this. And the sister or sister-in-law to Elizabeth Taylor's character is one of the best secondary characters of any movie in this period. In the book, once again, it's just much fuller. There's much more that you actually see. There's much more of the story that you're getting, but even in the movie, you'll love her. You wish that was your sister-in-law. As a woman, you wish that were your sister-in-law. She's a tell it straight, big heart. And I highly recommend it. I don't want to ruin it for anybody because if you haven't seen any of these movies, I want you to go in knowing kind of what you're getting into as far as like, this is a people story or this is a horror story. Like this is an event story. It's people, and it's people at their best and people at their worst. And life is not always easy. Life sometimes is hard and life gets very messy sometimes. And the book really encapsulates all that in this brilliant way that you feel love and compassion for people and pity for people. You're instead of being disgusted and hating people, you feel sorry for them for the decrepit person they make themselves. And it's their own fault. And all you can do is pity somebody who does that to themselves. So it's good. The book is brilliant. The movie is very good. It's a great watch. It's an entertaining watch. I don't want to say like it's moralizing and that you're going to feel like you're being taught a lesson. You're not. It's a story that at the end, as you're digesting it and processing it, that's how you'll see those elements as you're processing the story. 2 days later, I'll be like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's kind of James Dean's really good in it, and you'll understand if you watch the movie or have seen the movie, you'll understand why. Like, I wish they had fixed the present time at the end of the movie, cinematography and writing. I wish they had really explored that moment for just a few extra seconds to let it land and stick. But it's not a disappointing ending or anything. It's just that's the worst part of the movie is that 1 second there. But no, it's a great story. You're going to enjoy the story. You're going to be along for the ride, but it does tell a human story, and it's beautiful, and it's sad, and it's sweet, and it's loving, and it's perfect. It's kind of one of those, it's a perfect story, and it is very human. So anyway, up next, The Omen. Now, I could have put a lot of things in the Omen slot. I could have used Rosemary's Baby, to a lesser extent, The Exorcist. While I do enjoy The Exorcist, I prefer the movie over the book, even though I liked the book as well. It's a little bit more in the straight horror feel in the movie. It's much more creepy, scary through the whole thing, whereas The Omen and Rosemary's Baby, you're kind of more disjointed and disoriented. It's much more of an atmospheric kind of horror. But I do really enjoy this band of horror movies here. I think even Spider pointed out in his video, you have that like Polanski movie thing that just, he had a good streak going on there. But with The Omen, once again, you've got just such a great cast and such a strong cast. And I like the remake with Liv Schreiber. My biggest issue is seeing them as adults is very difficult for me, but it's a shot for shot remake of the original. And I think if I had to take one or the other, I would definitely take the original over the remake. But if for some reason you just can't get over that old movie feel or something, go ahead and watch the Liv Schreiber version. It's not as I don't, without getting into like how my brain processes input, it's a tactile experience for me. The Omen is very absorbing in the original movie, and you feel that movie a lot more. It sucks you in, and you really do feel like you are a character watching this unfold. It breaks the fourth wall in a very unique way, as far as movies go in general for me. There's no direct breaking the fourth wall, but it brings you in through the fourth wall, and you can feel this movie. You feel the tempo, you feel the anxiety, you feel the questioning, the constant disorientation of the movie. It is very effective as far as cinematography and storytelling goes. It's, a classic, demon child story, or what has become the classic demon child story, but it's very, very effective as a movie. It's very intense when it needs to be intense, and the casting is just so good. I mean, Warner's his last name. I forgot, David Warner. He's in this, and he's kind of one of those actors. He's a character actor that's in a lot of stuff, even plays leads in certain things, but he's so good at being that guy. And just, you always feel kind of pierced or attacked or attached to whatever he's doing in movies. And anything he's in generally is a pretty good movie. It's kind of one of those actors where you're like, he did a lot of really good stuff. So generally it's safe to watch one of his movies if you don't want to waste time on something bad. But The Omen for me is kind of, that is the creepy movie that still leaves me feeling away. The Omen 2, of course, is entertaining, but I'm still the Omen. The Omen is just kind of perfect. The remake doesn't have that same suck you in, makes you feel like you're present in the movie. It doesn't have that same draw that the original one does for me. But once again, if you just want to know what happens, kind of experience the movie as a normal person watching a movie, the remake's fine. It's just not as good as the original. Real quick for my last two here, Beetlejuice. I've told you guys a number of times here on the channel. It is my all-time favorite guilty pleasure horror movie thing. It's just funny. It's funny. It's silly. It's weird. I was really disappointed in the sequel. They took away Lydia's power. They made her so wishy-washy and soft. I would have really loved to see her grow into a vibrant adult, headstrong and full of herself still. I wish we had gotten that, but unfortunately we didn't, which is really sad because you really could have had just such a good story for Beetlejuice. But the first one, it's just fun. It's stupid and it's fun and it's silly and it's outrageous, and you had a good cast. I mean, you've got Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, and Michael Keaton. That's a really good cast. And then you had young Winona Ryder. You've got Catherine O'Hara. I mean, this is a great cast of people to have in a horror movie that's cheesy and silly and doesn't take itself seriously. And it's a good old time. It really is just a good old time. At the end of it, you're not scared. It's a scary theme, but you're not scared. You just spend the whole time laughing, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I've said it before multiple times on the channel. It doesn't surprise a single person. It's still one of my all-time favorite movies. Just like me personally, I love this movie. I know it's not a great movie. It's not the best movie ever made, but I love it. So the last one on my list is a lot of just about any Jacques Tourneur atmospheric horror movie. On the list, I put in Cat People, I Walked with a Zombie, and Night of the Demon. But I love his directing style. I love the feel of these movies. Jacques Tourneur was a big fan of the don't show everything. And I think that's very important, especially when you're relying 100% on practical effects. And at the time, studio budgets that were absolutely nominal. To be a good storyteller and to just keep everything just outside of the view of the watcher. It makes it more creepy. You build far more atmosphere. Jacques Tourneur was able to build tension. And even with melodrama, building tension can be very hard because it's unnatural to be at such a high all the time. And somehow, even with that high constantly resonating over here, Tourneur was able to build tension underneath it until the tension could meet the melodrama, and then everything happens all at once and crashes open. And it's just absolutely fantastic. It's a great build up, and a lot of times you won't realize, like you're pulling your shoulders in as the movie progresses, and you're slowly finding yourself getting tight. And at the resolution of the movie, it all kind of eases. You may even have like a little shiver at the end there, knocking off the tension of the movie. But like Night of the Demon, there's the infamous, fight about the final scene on the platform and stuff, where Trenier thought that was such a stupid thing to do and add in, because it was clear in the movie what had happened or what was going to happen or what was going on. But the studio felt the need to show it instead of allowing the audience to know it. And it is very unfortunate, because it does it makes you feel like your audience is stupid. You're telling your audience that they're dumb, and it does kind of cheapen what was built the entire movie. But if you at all are a huge fan of atmospheric movies where you kind of want more of that mystery and intrigue that is once again, I hate to say tangible, but it's a very tangible atmosphere. You get pulled into the story or pulled in by a character, and you find yourself participating in the movie. You feel more like you have participated in the plot. Jacques Tourneur movies are brilliant. And a lot of times the camera shots that you get, if you're really into cinematography, there are a lot of camera tricks that are used to create, just like that slight off angle, or that, I don't want to say like where you're like fading in and out, but you can kind of get like this movement in the camera that kind of, once again, just kind of gives you that dizzy off feeling. It's brilliant. It's brilliant technique on a low budget to create what is still, even today, as a watcher of these movies, very effective atmosphere building and character building and development. So also a lot of like solo shots and things, framing for certain characters is different. So he used lots of tools that would trick your brain into thinking you're hearing more, you're seeing more, you're experiencing more. And all it is, framing up a shot a certain way or showing a person from a certain angle. So it's like the illusion of trying to create height by filming at a lower level. It's kind of that, except it's constantly used throughout the movie in very subtle ways. So I highly recommend any of the thrillers or horrors directed by Jacques Tourneur, just for a good story and amazing cinematography and effective storytelling. It's kind of one of those safe directors things. This is a block that are all kind of safe movies, in my opinion, that you will enjoy. They are all enjoyable. So anyway, that is my list. I am really sorry to have taken up so much of your time, but I do tend to way over talk. So real quickly, the people that I am going to tag to come in and do the same thing, I want Erica of the Lopsided Crafter, because I know she's got some really good movie recs. Jennifer at Cinnamon Stitches, Joe at Joe's Web, Cindy at Cindy Hertz Crochet, Rosanna from Crochet with Nana Rosanna, and Bridget from Queen's Crafts by Bridget. So go check out their videos, as well as Heather the Crochet Witch and Fiber Spider. They did this before me. We will have one more video, which I believe is music and crochet. So I'm also very excited to talk to you guys about that, but that will have to be another day. I love you guys. I hope you are having a wonderful, fantastic day. Please take care of yourselves. Bye, you guys.